Welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to analyze the muscles of the leg. I have prepared a quick drawing of the skeleton, and I'm going to show you how to quickly block in the main volume, the main masses of the muscle of the leg, and subdivide them in the various individual muscles. So let's start analyzing the main landmarks that we need in order to position properly the muscles of the leg. We need the anterior superior iliac spine here. We already know this landmark. The anterior inferior iliac spine here. Okay, we need the patella. So now I have marked down my basic landmark. Now I can start subdividing this main volume here. You see this main volume of the thigh in two groups. So I'm going to draw. Let me get the visible color here. I'm going to draw a torpedo-like shape, like a cigar or a hot dog thing here. That goes from the anterior superior iliac spine down to the patella, including the patella. In reality, this muscle in here will not start from here, will start from here, but it's easier this way, okay? We're gonna see later on the detail of the muscle. So I'm going to have diagonal form. They come down like this from this point in here down toward the patella. This is going to be the group of the quadricep. And I'm gonna give it a nice color so we can identify it readily, okay? So quadricep group. Quadricep means 4 heads, but we're going to see only 3 heads of this muscle because one head is deep and it's not visible unless we dissect the leg, which we don't want to do. So now in here, I'm going to block in the group of the adductors. The adductors, this forming here will start from the pubic bone and will be directed toward this extremity of the condyle of the femur. So from here down to here, okay? Meaning it will not, this line here will not end up along the profile of this mass of the quadricep, but a little bit higher, about 1/3 of a head up from the articular plane. So this group in here is going to be the group of the adductors, okay? So we want to, I want to just stress the difference between adduction and abduction. So abduction is taken away, like alien abduction, you know? So you take away something. Adduction brings together. So these muscles in here are really powerful muscles inside the thigh that bring together the leg. So adductors. Now we move down, so we have now quadricep group as a one big torpedo shape form, and this triangular shape for the adductors group. Adductors is quite a few muscles. We're not going to go into that. Just analyze them as a big chunk. Now we move down to the lower leg, and in here I'm going to do pretty much the same thing I did above, and I'm going to draw an ovoidal shape that will start from just below the head of the tibia, and it will occupy, I can take the total length of the lower leg like this, it will occupy the upper half, more or less, okay? So as you get to the upper, to the middle here, you're going to come in and draw a football-like shape, like an ovoidal shape. This group of muscles will be the gastrocnemius, it will be the tibialis, it would be the soleus, another muscle that we're going to see in detail later on. Okay, this would be more or less the shape of the calves, although the calves are posterior. Below this, I'm going to have a conical shape. Okay, so let's see a conical shape in here that will end just above the malleoli. See. sorry, the ankles, here, like this, okay? So if I look at this general set of shapes in here, it's almost as if I have like an ice cream cone, see that? With the big ice cream on top, like 2 scoops ice cream. In here, below this, you see the malleolae, how they come out? And overall, in here, I'm going to have another conical shape, but this time reversed and much shorter than this, okay? So let's color it. Let's give it a basic color. So this forming here will be for the calves, the tibialis, etc. I'm going to leave part of the tibia visible because the tibia, the shins, are going to be visible in here, okay? This lower portion in here is going to be for arm muscle that we're going to see later in detail. But now I am more interested in the general volumes and how they come together, okay? So this portion in here is going to be the portion where the tendons flare out from this portion of the leg, flare out toward the feet, okay? So in here we're going to have this reversed conical shape. And under this, the foot. So now I'm going to show you here on the right side, I'm going to show you how to subdivide these big forms into their components, okay? It's always best to start with the big form, have the big form under control, and then subdivide it. That way you don't have to add little pieces at a time and you don't know where you're going to end up. So in this case, I'm going to have now, again, the group of the quadricep like this, but now this time, instead of going below the patella, I'm going to stop here above the patella, here, like this, okay? Now, from this point in here, I'm going to trace a straight line that goes down to the middle of the patella, okay? Here like this. And what I'm going to do is, maybe I should use a darker color. There you go. This is much better. Otherwise, we can't see what we are doing. So, what we're doing now, we're going to create an axis along which I'm going to develop my quadricep. So the first muscle I'm going to start with is the rectus femoris, which means the straight one of the femur. And in this case, I want to start from the anterior inferior iliac spine because that is where this muscle begins from. So come down like this, and you stop about, I don't know, a quarter of a head above the patella, a little bit above the patella. Okay, and you create a nice tapered shape for the rectus femoris, okay, the straight one of the femur. So let's give it a color. Let's make a nice, bright, visible color, right here. So this muscle in here has a long tendon that goes from here, from the bottom here, down to the top of the patella, here, like this, okay? You're gonna, and another tendon from here, from the anterior inferior iliac spine, I'm gonna have another tendon here, okay? The tendon will come down and will flare out like this. So at this point, what I want to do is I want to mark in the vastus medialis, the big one of the middle, vastus medialis, that's what it means, the big one of the middle. You know, maybe we shouldn't translate them, it takes the mystery away from them. You know? But the big one of the middle, here it is, okay? It will go will appear from right behind this muscle here. It will start from the femur, so it would, in reality, it would appear a little bit lower, okay? So, but we are not so much concerned about this now because we are trying to create a very simple way, a very simple set of shapes that we can understand. Then we can go more into details later on, okay? Okay, this is the vastus medialis, okay? And actually, I can start doing this here, making it a little bit more precise. As you can see, the vastus medialis, at this level here, will start having a specific shape, which is this portion here is not so rounded, but is going to start having specific planes, a change of angle in here. Of course, this muscle will, the shape of this muscle will change a lot depending on the physical condition of the model, okay? Now, this one on the side is a vastus, but is lateralis because it is, again, on the side, okay? So this muscle will start from just halfway down the trochanter and then will wrap around the femur. We're not going to be concerned with that now. But it will be the muscle on the side in here, okay? And it's going to come down. We follow pretty much the profile of the boxes. See how handy those boxes are now, okay? From here, then you come in toward the top of the patella and the lateral superior margin of the patella. And then now we're going to give it a color. So let's see, we have a nice orange here, or dark yellow. And this is going to be the vastus lateralis. There is also the vastus intermedius, which is under this one. We don't see it and we don't worry, but you have to know that the quadricep has 4 heads. We only see 3. Okay, so vastus lateralis. And now let's look at this typical behavior of the tendons of these muscles. So this tendon here, the tendons of the rectus femoris, is the longest tendon. Okay? The tendon of the vastus medialis is going to be very short here. And actually, very often, this muscle in here will go below the top margin of the patella, like this, okay? And will attach onto it with a very short tendon again. So the vastus lateralis, instead, is going to have an intermediate length tendon, like this, okay? So long, medium, short. See that? This is always the case. Now, these 3 muscles, 4 actually, will attach on top of the patella. Then from below the patella, I want to now mark the tibial tuberosity. No, we already know the tibial tuberosity here. And I'm going to have a tendon, the tendon of the quadricep, that goes from the lower margin of the patella here to the tibial tuberosity. Okay, so this is going to be a very thick tendon which will leave a clear shape and imprint on the outside of the knee. Okay, so now let's move on down to this set of volumes in here. And what we want to do, we want to start with the medial part because it's easier, it's simpler. And remember, we had this ovoidal shape, no? Here like this. Now, what we want to do now, we want to be a little bit more specific in terms of the general shape of this form. So remember the forearm? I told you, don't draw the Popeye. I mean, you can draw the Popeye arm, but then you have to be more specific, no? So I had to find out now the peaks of this form in here. The same way I found out about the peaks of the forearm. So the peak of the calf is going to be low here. Okay, I'm going to have this portion in here, this middle portion of the calf here, coming out straight, and then a sudden change of, not sudden, but a clear change of angle here at this level. Okay, you must have seen those bikers or those joggers speeding by with these big angular calves in the middle. So always on the medial side, never on the lateral side. Then as you have created this change of angle in here, then you can connect this group in here with the lower portion of the calf, making sure that the malleolus here is going to be, the ankle is going to be to the front of this lining here. The peak on this side in here instead is going to be higher than that, but difficult to identify. So it's going to be somewhere here, okay, and kind of smooth, but not so clear. But the general orientation of these two peaks is always going to be like this, okay? The same way the malleoli here, the ankles are going to be oriented always this way. These peaks in here are going to be oriented always this way. This is typical in the leg. So we want to respect these typical rhythms of the body. Otherwise, we end up with an artificial set of volumes that do not convey the real sense, the real feel, the real rhythms and aesthetics of the body. So now we're going to analyze in detail the muscle of the lower leg, okay? So we see how this upper portion in here, medial portion, is going to be occupied by the gastrocnemius, the medial gastrocnemius, okay? Like this. So as you see, this volume in here will go from just below the head of the tibia to more or less halfway down the total length of the leg. The shape of this muscle can vary, can change, so this is just a statistic shape that I'm going to give you, okay? Then below this, I'm going to have two more muscles. One is going to be, so we want to have the lower margin of this muscle here come up like this toward the shin, toward the tibia, okay? Below here, I have this segment in here. See this segment in here? This segment in here, I'm going to subdivide it in two equal portions, more or less, like this. And the upper part is going to be occupied by the soleus, and the lower part by the flexor of the toes. There are many flexors of the toes, so we're going to just keep it vague. Flexor of the toes, okay? So keep it in mind, this peak in here and this tapering here. These muscles in here will be behind the shin. Now let's move to the lateral side, and I'm going to show you three main shapes. No, it's pink, I already have this. So this one. Three main shapes for the muscle of the front on the lateral side. This muscle in here, this is the muscle that hurts when you walk briskly, running after the bus after you have been sitting for months at your desk, and all of a sudden this muscle here to the front hurts because you kind of lift the foot like this with this muscle here. This is the tibialis anterior, okay? Then we're going to have here next to it the extensor of the fingers, okay? This is a single muscle, and from here, the bottom of this muscle here, I'm going to have four tendons fanning out. So first I'm going to have all these tendons kind of packed together, but as we approach the foot, these tendons are going to flare out. 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? To the second, third, fourth, and fifth toe. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now the tendon of the tibialis is going to go medially to the side of the foot. So basically what happens is this muscle in here, the tibialis anterior, will start on the front and will from the front to the lateral side and will move down medially on the side of the foot, okay? Actually, let me slightly change the shape of this muscle here, because this muscle here comes right next to the tibia tuberosity here. Okay, like that. So now next to it, here next to the extensor of the toes, I'm going to have here the peroneus. So peroneus will take the name from the perone here. So I'm going to have the perone here, or fibula. It will disappear behind it. So Let's give it a color. Let's use this nice yellow here. Peroneus here. We start from the head of the fibula here, okay, comes down like this, and disappears behind the ankle here. Now, next to it here, I'm going to see on the profile on the side, I'm going to see yet another muscle, and it's going to be the soleus, okay? Only a little bit. Sometimes if the muscles are very developed, I'm going to see maybe also a little bit the lateral gastrocnemius, but it's difficult to see. Okay. So now let's add one more muscle. Actually, not the muscle, a tendon. So between the extensor of the fingers and the tibialis, I'm going to have a big tendon here from the extensor of the big toe, extensor hallucis, that comes down like that. So meaning this is the tendon that makes you wiggle the big toe. Okay, so it's independent from the other ones. Okay, so these when you tend to move the toes, it's difficult to move individually, but you can move individually the big toe because it has his own tendon. So let's look quickly at the profile of this tendon. So extensor of the big toe, extensor hallucis, extensor of the fingers in here. 1, 2, 3, 4. There is another muscle under here, but we're not going to go into that from this view because it's a frontal view, it's difficult to see. So this is going to be the outline of the tibialis, okay? Because AUC is covering basically most of the tibia. No? This is going to be the extensor digitorum, extensor of the toes. Okay? This is going to be the peroneus. Peroneus, there are 3 peroneus. Peroneus longus, brevis, and tertius. We just lump it in just one muscle because we don't need that level of detail in here. We are more concerned about the masses and the volumes, okay? And back there, I'm going to have the soleus. So let me color this green because it's the same muscle. Okay, so the soleus is a big flat muscle, covers the back, starts from here in the back and comes down like this, and then reconnect with this. Okay, but we only see this because it's the front view. So now we established the volume of the muscle of the thigh, the volume of the muscle of the lower leg. Now we go back up to the top because I want to connect these two volumes together. So let's quickly block in the pattern, the volume of the adductors, just as a very simple group, okay? And then I'm going to create now the pattern of the sartorius. Sartorius is a long, thin muscle that goes from the anterior superior iliac spine down here to this position in here below the head of the tibia. So this is what it does. Come down from here and will run between the group of the quadricep and the group of the adductors. Here. It's very convenient, no? Because once we establish these two volumes in here, I know that my sartorius is going to run right in between this groove in here. As it gets to the middle side of the leg, it will disappear behind the profile of the medial head of the quadricep, and then will reappear here under it and coat the profile of the box of the knee here. From here we'll move forward and go down below the head of the tibia. So now this is going to be sartorius. Beautiful long muscle. And then here we go. This is going to become tendinous as soon as it gets to just below the tibia here. And to coat the profile of the leg, we are going to have the gracilis. Coming here, thin muscle, disappears here behind. We're going to see it later on when we do the back of the leg. And then from here, I'm going to have this muscle disappear. I don't see it. I'm only going to see the tendon coming out from here. Okay? So this is going to be, this structure is going to be called the goose foot, pes anserinus, because it does look like the foot of a goose. So tendon of the sartorius, tendon of the gracilis, and then below here I'm going to have tendon with two more muscles, which we're going to analyze later, semitendinosus and semimembranosus. Only very thin muscles here and here. Okay. Okay. Now we move back up here, and we're going to see that here, also starting from the anterior superior iliac spine, I'm going to have the tensor fascia lata, a muscle that will cover the trochanter from the front, like this, okay? And then will end up into the fascia lata, or iliotibialis fascia, here down, it goes down on the side like this, and we'll go down to the tibia tuberosity here. Okay. Iliotibialis band. So one last muscle that I see here is going to be here the gluteus medius, and the fiber of the gluteus medius are going to merge with the top of the trochanter, with the thick fascia, which will contribute to the creation of the fascia lata here. From this positioning here, I'm going to see one last muscle, and it's going to be the bicep, the muscle that we see later on, and I'm going to see the lower portion of the bicep coming in from here, and the tendon of the bicep is going to attach with the top, you're going to connect with the top of the head of the fibula. So that wraps it up for the muscle of the front of the leg. Next, we're going to see the posterior view of the muscles of the leg. So we're going to analyze now the back, the posterior side of the muscle in the glutei, thighs, and lower leg. I have blocked in here the main volume, the main masses of groups of muscles, and sometimes individual muscles. So we're going to start from the top in here. I'm going to have the gluteus medius that comes diagonally down like this from the iliac crest to the top of the trochanter. So from the back, I'm going to feel my trochanter in here. I feel the bone in here. Then from the last corner of the posterior corner of the iliac crest and the sacrum, I'm going to have the gluteus maximum developing down this way toward the trochanter and toward the fascia lata. Fascia lata is a big tendinous band that we're going to see more in detail later. Below this big form of the glutei, I'm going to have the cylindrical shape of the thigh. So I have drawn this, the lateral portion in here, lateral and medial portion of the muscle of the thigh is just one color, but in reality, there are many more muscles in here that we're going to analyze later. What you want to notice in this configuration is that I'm going to have this typical conical shape, and this is, the one in pink, is a big volume, And above this big volume, I'm going to have a smaller volume, a smaller cylindrical shape. So a big cylindrical shape, the pink one, and on top of that, a smaller cylindrical shape. This cylindrical shape at the bottom will split. A portion goes to medially, and a portion goes laterally. Now, as I move down to the lower leg, I'm going to see the mass, the volume of the gastrocs, medial and lateral. And now I have just drawn them as just one big teardrop, okay, like this. This mass in here will originate from this point in here and then gradually move down, widening and connecting, as we have seen, halfway down the length of the lower leg with the Achilles tendon. So on below this big teardrop shape of the gastrocs, I'm going to have this conical shape that we have seen before. And this conical shape, I'm going to find the soleus, which is going to be partially hidden, actually most of it hidden by the Achilles tendon. And below it, I'm going to have two more muscles. I'm going to have the peroneus, and I'm going to have the flexor of the fingers. Okay, so the Achilles tendon will connect with the heel here. So now let's move on back up here, and we're going to see these muscles more in detail. And I'm going to start with the gluteus medius. So we've seen the gluteus medius starts from the iliac crest here, posterior and lateral portion of the iliac crest, comes down like this, and will go to the top of the trochanter. See that? Connects with a tendon here. And I'm going to feel the trochanter. So if you poke your hips in the back here, you're going to feel, so in this portion in here, you're going to feel a bone, okay? And that is the trochanter, the greater trochanter. But from the front, you're not going to see it, feel it, because it is covered by muscles that we are going to analyze later on more in detail. So this is the greater trochanter. Now, we're going to see the mass of the gluteus maximus. And the gluteus maximus will come down diagonally like this, with these fibers, going toward the trochanter, like this, okay? And then they keep going down toward the trochanter. But when I'm out of trochanter, see that the trochanter will end here. So this is the bottom of the trochanter. These fibers then will not go up to the trochanter like this. Will keep going down, but they will be connecting with the fascia lata, okay? Fascia lata is this big tendinous band that connects these three muscles. We see the gluteus maximus, gluteus medius, and tensor fascia lata going down. Their own tendinous fibers organized together, and they create this fascia lata or iliotibialis fascia, the same thing. And they move down to the tibia tuberosity. So let's see now, is a very important detail is how big is the gluteus. And, typically, we don't know how big we should do it. So if we have an idea where the ischium is, so this being the ischium, let me show you in the skeleton where the ischium is. So this, we have seen it already, but, we're going to repeat it. This bone in here, see that these two bones in here are the ischii, and these give the name to the ischiatic nerve, sciatica, because the nerves come down. Anyway, these are the ischii, okay? And the gluteus will go below this bone in here, okay? So once you have this as the landmark, you go past that, below that. Basically, you are sitting on the ischium and on a padding of muscle. You got your own pillow attached to you. So this is going to be the gluteus maximus, okay, with these fibers coming down like this. And I keep going down now toward the fascia lata, okay. Now, we move on to the side of the thigh, and we're going to see that on the side of the thigh here, I'm going to have the vastus lateralis. So remember, the vastus lateralis from the front was fairly thin, okay? And also from the back is fairly thin, but from the side is a big chunky muscle, okay, like a big flank steak or something. So this one is going to come down like this and move to the front, because remember, this muscle here has to go to the top of the patella. So it will help if you can develop X-ray vision, let's say, meaning you want to know where here the patella is. So the skeleton is here. See this? This is going to be the femur. And the patella is going to be just above the height of the condyle here. So this is going to be the patella. This muscle here has to go to the top of the patella. So this line here, as you draw it, will be informed by the position of the patella, that you know where it is, even if it's on the other side. Okay. So vastus lateralis. Now we're going to go into the inside of the thigh. I'm going to see in here, it's going to be a lot of colors now. In here, I'm going to see, actually, let me use the adductors. I'm going to see part of the adductors group here, only a little bit, okay? Going to be adductors coming in like this. Remember, the adductor goes here, okay, to the medial condyle. Okay, so this is the adductor. Next to the adductor, I'm going to have the gracilis. Actually, the gracilis will be the muscle that creates the medial profile. It kind of frames the leg medially. Okay, the gracilis comes down like this, and then it will merge with the sartorius muscle from the front. Okay, and we're going to see the sartorius now here. The sartorius will start, we have seen, from the front, will come diagonally down like this and emerges in here. And then will cover the posterior half of the box of the knee, okay? And then moves back forward to below the head of the tibia. Okay. So it gets a little bit tricky here, but you can handle it. So now here, this is going to be the adductor group, okay? We decided to just lump all the adductors in one big group to simplify the thing. This is going to be the gracilis. As the gracilis gets in contact with the sartorius, it becomes tendinous very quickly. And then this moves to the front, below the head of the tibia, no? So I'm not going to see it disappear. This muscle here now, the gracilis, will become tendinous here, as it merges with the sartorius, okay, here. So I'm going to have sartorius here, with the tendon of the gracilis to the back. As you can see, they go over the profile of the box of the knees, making this portion, the medial portion, come out a little bit, okay, bumpier. Okay, so now we move in here, and we're going to have now the semitendinosus, semimembranosus, and the bicep. So we're going to call them semi-T, semi-M, because it's going to be easier, okay, but this group in here, in this muscle in here, I'm going to draw only one form, okay, to simplify the whole thing. This is going to be the semimembranosus and semitendinosus on top, and they're going to create here, form like this, okay. And keep going now on the side. See how this muscle goes on the side. The green muscle here go on the side here. And then at the bottom here, they're going to be divided in two. So I can divide now the semi-T, semi-M in two, because this is going to be semimembranosus peeking from under the semitendinosus. And they become tendinous and move to the side, and we are going to contribute to create the goose foot, the pes anserinus. Okay? So let's color this green so we kind of recall this forming here, and we leave the other one yellow, so we can see the correspondence between the two. Green here, and darker green here. So we see how these are the semi-T, semi-M. They become tendinous, and the tendons will contribute to create the goose foot or pes anserinus. Pes anserinus, you know where the accent is. Okay, so now here, this one is going to be the bicep femoris. So I'm going to have the bicep brachii, which is this one, and the bicep femoris is the one in the femur. So I'm going to draw this red. The bicep femoris is so called because it's two heads, biceps, you know, bicep, tricep, quadricep. So bicep femoris, you're going to have two heads, but I'm going to simplify the whole thing and draw only one head, okay? Instead of a long head and short head, just one head. And this will behave similarly to the semi-T, semi-M, and separate as they approach the joint of the knee here. And they're going to go move to the front, and see this muscle in here, this is the bicep, and you're going to go to the head of the fibula, okay? So, bicep, and opening like that. So this is a typical behavior of these muscles in here. They separate, it creates some sort of a curtain. See that? A nice curtain. And from under this curtain, we're going to have, ta-da, the gastrocs coming out like this. See that? They come out like this, almost like two waterfalls sprouting out like this. This is going to be the medial head, is going to be the lateral head of the gastrocnemius. Remember the peaks that we established before? So now I'm going to draw this using the peaks. So I start from this generic teardrop shape, and now we're going to put in the peaks. This portion here the medial gastro is going to have a distinct peak here. No? Meanwhile, this portion here, the peak in here is not going to be as visible. Okay? These two muscles are going to be, they're also called twins. So these two muscles in here are going to be making up the big mass of the calf. Okay, let's color them. I cannot really use the same color because they're going to be two different colors and two different muscles. I want to distinguish them. One, the medial, and two, the lateral. Okay, they're going to have a nice big tendon here, coming out like this. Okay. Now there is a small detail I want to go into. In the flayed figure, this portion here is going to be empty. But in the living, this portion here is going to come out with a sort of a protuberance, a sort of relief, because in here I will have tendons, arteries, etc. So this portion here is going to be filled, okay, not so carved. Okay, so now let's move down past the gastrocs, the two gastrocnemies. Below them, I'm going to have the Achilles tendon at the bottom in here. Achilles tendon. Okay. And I guess I had to wash my hands. So Achilles tendon. So below here, below the Achilles tendon, I'm going to have, as you've seen, the soleus. Soleus is a big, flat muscle, pretty big and powerful, but is mostly hidden by the Achilles tendon and the gastroc. But it's here. We'll start from here. We'll see it comes down like this. Okay, and we only see these two portions in here. All the part that in here we don't see. So let's give it a color. Here. Okay, so this muscle will, the fiber of this muscle will merge with the Achilles tendon. Okay, and the tendinous fibers of the soleus will contribute to create the Achilles tendon together with the gastrocs. So let's draw the profile of this. And then it comes down like this, the tendon, heel. Now I want to see the ankles poking out like that. Make sure you have the orientation of these peaks correct. The orientation of these peaks correct. And then now we're going to put these two muscles in here, which are going to be the flexor digitorum here. This muscle in here, there is more than one, actually there's quite a few tendons and muscles here, but we just use one muscle as to describe this mass. The muscle will go, the tendon muscle will go under the foot to the toes to flex them, but we are only interested in this shape now. We don't really need to see what happens below the foot. We don't see it. So this muscle in here is going to be the peroneus. As we have seen, the peroneus is in reality three muscles: peroneus longus, brevis, and tertius. But I'm going to simplify it. Only one muscle. Okay, peroneus, generic peroneus, and the tendon of this muscle will go around the malleolus, around the ankle here, to the front, toward the side of the foot like this. So now we're going to go back up here. We're going to define a little bit the fascia lata and see it from the back. Okay, fascia lata, big tendinous band that will go from the top of the trochanter, the back of the glutei, down along the side of the leg, and then in here to the tibial tuberosity. And that wraps up the leg for today. So this was a lot of material to digest, so make sure you post your question on the platform. I'll be really happy to help you out with that. Next time we're going to see the muscle of the back. See you then.